Right, what we're hoping to do today is reenact something that happened in 1985, wasn't it, Mugs?
About that, Dennis, yeah, 85.
It was before Christmas.
Yeah.
And somebody, I don't know who it was, come up with this idea. He said, hey Gilly, how about we can run from John O'Groats to Land's End? And I said, yeah, sounds a good idea, Mugs.
And end up in this, Dennis, the Guinness Book of Records.
And I said, the typical Mugsy, full of bull. And before we knew it, I was ringing up the Guinness Book of Records, speaking to the top guys there. And
Mr. Farino.
And seeing if there was a record, and there was supposedly a record of 102 hours, and Brian and I sat down, and that was taken in like January or February 86, and
seems like yesterday.
And I'd like to hand over to Muggsy because, believe it or not, he's a bit more articulate than me.
I wouldn't say that. Yeah, we sat down and we thought of a plan. We worked out a route. We worked out times we expected to be able to run, and then we called a meeting between all the guys in the squash club who ran with us in our little running team, and seeing what they thought, see if they thought it'd be possible. And we ended up.
There was a lot of skeptics.
There was a lot of skeptics at the start, which I suppose there is with everything like that, because we needed to get sponsorship, which anybody who knows who's ever tried to get anything like that's very difficult. And so we just put the questions out there, and then eventually, luckily enough, we were able to get sponsored by Viner, who were a homebrew company, and they gave us sufficient sponsorship to enable us to hire 2 motorhomes, a backup vehicle to ferry between the runners, and covering the cost of the fuel as well.
And who was thanked for getting that?
Oh, that was
besides your wife.
Oh yeah, through the bank, yeah. It was Alan Shellard and Laurie Barker, who were from Viner, and they contacted all the different homebrew companies around the country, and they gave them the backing to back us to pursue our dream, if you like. So then we realised that because it was obviously an ongoing thing, that we needed to prepare properly for it. We needed to do the necessary training, didn't we?
Yeah. We sat down and put schedules down to try and get everybody to run on the 7-minute mile pace over long distance, which is a fair old pace to do.
Oh, indeed.
And in fact, I think you and I used to get up in the morning, 6 o'clock.
6 o'clock in the morning, yeah. We get up, we meet somewhere around, and we go off, because we all had to go to work in the day. We go and do a training run, 6 o'clock, come home, get showered, and then go to work. And then you do little runs at night time.
Big runs at night time.
At the weekend, we do our longer runs.
We did a few 20 miles of a morning.
Yeah, there was, yeah, the longer runs, yeah.
We ran all the way out to Halsall and back, and find out our breakfast was in the dog. We didn't have a dog.
I mean, the hard thing about the training was it's got to be done, because otherwise there's no end product. You've obviously, when you're doing the run, there's a target you're aiming for continually. But because where we live on the west coast, everywhere's pretty flat. So we used to go to places like Everton Valley, where there are a lot of hills, and we do hill training. We go up to Parbold Hill and be running up and down there, just trying to, because we weren't sure. We knew it was going to be hilly through Scotland and the Lake District, and it's undulating everywhere else. And used to think we're running downhill, aren't we, when we're going from Scotland down to Land's End?
Brian always got the uphills, he said.
Of course. There's proof on the camera.
On one of the changeovers, Mugs, I always remember we'd ran through the night, and early in the day you lot took over, and we tried to get to our next sleep, but because everyone come to see us in Newton Willows,
yeah,
we ended up having no bloody sleep, So until we got to the changeover point, which was somewhere like the Craven Arms or someplace like that, we all piled into bed, and I think I should have set the alarm. And we were changing over something like 1 o'clock in the morning, and it just meant that we'd only have a couple of hours sleep. And you buggers.
Oh, I remember it, Dennis. I remember it well.
Come past, and you were tiptoeing round the. So you told me you were tiptoeing round the bloody.
Oh, we didn't want to wake you up. Yeah,
go on.
You give us a load of stick for being slightly behind schedule on one of the changeovers, and so this was like, oh, what a chance to get some pride back in our run. So as we came to the changeover point, we saw the motorhome parked up, all black, not a sign of life. So I said to the lads in our hard little team, right lads, we'll do a mile each, run as hard as you can, let's get as far ahead as we possibly can. And so we went and we stuck a little notice on the door of the motorhome saying, you're still in bed, we've passed you, we're on our way. And
so sometime, I don't know how much later it was, but I just woke up, saw the time, and I said, flipping heck, lads, wake up and have your breakfast, we're in a hurry.
And the foot was going through the fall on accelerator pedal to catch us up. Yeah, it was good. Do you know, there's not a lot I can remember. I can't remember having a shower. I can't remember taking a long time to have breakfast. It was always on the move.
But you always had time to iron your running shorts, didn't you?
Oh yeah, your running shorts looking nice and neat. I tell you what was disappointing, Dennis. Do you remember when we were running through the Highlands of Scotland, Aviemore and around there, Dromocta Pass, and they've been in touch with Scottish Television through the radio station, and they said there'd be a camera crew waiting to greet us as we run right over the top in all the snow around us and everything. And it was so disappointing, wasn't it, when they never turned up?
There was quite a few disappointments.
Yeah.
Do you remember you getting on the phone to
Radio City,
Radio City?
Yeah, Phil Easton, yeah.
And what was it he said to you?
Oh, it's we've been using a two-way radio, and so between the sleeping car, the motorhome, and the minibus. So when you were conversing with one another, when you finished talking on the radio, you go, "Okay, over," so they know they can speak. And when I was doing this interview with Phil Easton, we were around about Carnforth, the Lower Lake District, and I'm talking to him on the live radio. We're doing this chat, and he said he was asking me how it was going. I was telling him, and as when I finished speaking, I went, "Okay, over," and he went, "What's all this over?" And I said, "Oh, sorry, Phil. I thought I was still on the radio." We had some fun with the radio, didn't we?
We had lots of fun with the radio, especially Brian Berrington.
So it is quite a long distance. Whereabouts is the actual midpoint?
Well, surprisingly enough, the midpoint is just by Preston, sort of here. When you think we'd run all the way here, so from there to Land's End, that's the halfway point, is just by Preston, which is surprising really, because when you look at it on the map, it looks well over halfway.
Was there any points that you like anything that like happens where you thought, oh, we might not actually be able to do this here?
Well, going towards the end, at the last day, we were losing time, and what we decided to do was get guys to do shorter distances and faster. So we just picked up the mileage, didn't we?
Yeah, we were able to claw back some of the time that we'd fallen behind our schedule for various reasons. You take into account the steepness of the hills and stuff like that. So yeah, we managed to, at one point we were like 6 hours behind our schedule, but at the end we ended up to pull it back to just 2 hours, which over 840 miles is a very small amount of time.
But we were always inside the previous record.
Always. I mean, the journey got off to a frustrating start because we'd hired 2 motorhomes from a company in Manchester and a van to go with the runner. And on the way down, the day before we were driving up to John Groats, one of the motorhomes broke down. It blew up on the way from Manchester to Liverpool, and we were desperately trying to get a replacement, and because otherwise we wouldn't have been able to do it. We managed to get a minibus, which meant that we couldn't sleep in 2 separate motorhomes, one for each team, but the minibus stayed with the people who were running on the road, and the motorhome was used purely as a sleeping.
Change over of bags every changeover, and there was a few incidents happening there.
Yeah, there was a few as people got tired and stuff like that. There was a few tempers getting frayed as the changeover bags. So somebody was taking bags off one bus and putting them on the floor, and somebody was picking the same bags up
and putting
them back on the same bus. They've just been taken off. But that was just pressure of running through the night. Running through the night, you know, people were sort of hallucinating what they imagined they could see at the side of the road with the shadows and stuff like that.
Well, when we started this, I never realised the actual how big of a task it actually is for the John Groats to Land's End. So
I don't actually think in our minds we visualised what we were taking on, but it started up here in John Groats, and then we went down the coast, and then here through the mountains, and then we came right down the spine of England, right down this way, all the way down here, and 840 miles later we ended up at Land's End. We started at 12 noon on the 22nd of June 1986, and we finished on the 26th of June at 11:54. It was a record, wasn't it, Dennis?
Yeah. Fully substantiated. We filled in the right forms. The Guinness Book of Records people gave us the criteria that we had to do, which we can talk about later, and we stuck by the rules, and we did it.
What struck home to us was on the drive from Liverpool up to John Groats, it took us 14 hours, and when we arrived there we thought, if it takes 14 hours to drive this far, how long is it going to take us to run twice that distance? And that was the